Hello and welcome to the second Chaos Chosen tournament. We had the first round of this yesterday with 4 players, and now we have the second today with 4 new players. There will be 2 winners, one each day. And just a few minutes before we start getting the players in. I'll get the map set up for them. It's going to be Eastern Straits Isle Inland. Expecting Ragnar and Fatal Cowboy as the 2 players in this first round. It'll be best of 3 for the first rounds and for the 3rd place playoff, and then best of 5 in the final. Expecting some interesting games today. Some slightly more experienced players, as an average, I would say, across the board today. And we should have some interesting close games. I'm expecting this one to run a little bit longer than yesterday's. Partly because we'll probably get a chance to actually do the 3rd place playoffs. The 3rd place playoffs this time. Last time Iridium had to leave, real life getting in the way, so we didn't have a chance to do the 3rd place. And I'm expecting a couple more 2-1 situations this time, rather than 2-0s in the best of 3s. Just give Cowboy and Ragnar a couple of minutes to prepare themselves. Arriving between now and 8, so within the next 5 minutes. If anyone hasn't already seen the tournament from yesterday, there is the full video now uploaded. Eventually, with it being a 3.5-ish hour one, it took a while to decide to have the stream as a watchable video in its own right. And that's up now, so while we wait for this to start, feel free to hop on into that one and have a look. Yeah, I agree with PD in the live chat there. It should be very interesting in the first rounds too, as well as the later ones. There's a lot of the rather than seeding these 2 tournaments based on skill or track record, these have been based on when player availability, and so it'll have an impact. I think this one is a tighter group in experience, so it should be some nice, close, hard-fought games. And Cowboys joined us. I'll send Ragnar an invite. Currently, on Steam as Daddy Draven, but here he is. This is I'll refer to him as Ragnar purely because that's what he's played of until a few days ago, and it's how he is in my head. Okay. The first map, as mentioned, is Eastern Straits Isle Inland. Should be an interesting one. Cowboy to ban first. Interesting map. It's got 2 avenues that are hills on the left and the right of both players, and then there's a big stone in the middle that blocks a lot of line of sight, prevents too much artillery play unless it's sort of a mortar or something similar. but the hills on the sides mean that if you position things well, then you can get an interesting dynamic there as well. Trees, there's enough to think about, but still are mostly flat. So you can build your army around any of the terrains. Oh, thanks, Great Book of Grudges. Good to see you hopping in. Cowboy has banned Chaos in the first game. Interesting. Ragnar is quite good at Chaos. I think that's a sensible ban. So Cowboy has banned Ragnar's Chaos. And then Ragnar to ban. With Chaos banned, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ragnar playing Vampire Coast. He's banned Beastmen rather. So Ragnar has banned the Beastmen. So maybe he's playing Dwarfs. I'm expecting to see Dwarfs and Vampire Coast as two definites from Ragnar. If it goes to a 3-game, Chaos. Yeah, me too, PD. I've been watching some of the Great Book of Grudges videos this afternoon while prepping for this. While I was getting all the stream settings set up, I was watching new Clan Pestilence one. It's worth watching if anyone hasn't already. Yeah, no surprises that PD likes the Skaven ones. Cowboy seems to have picked Lizardman. Interesting. I don't see Cowboy play Lizardman very often. Cowboy's gone with Lizardman against Tomb Kings. Okay, that'll be our first game. On Eastern Straits Isle, not a lot of water, but not great sightlines for the Tomb Kings. I was discussing this matchup with Cowboy earlier, actually, and he does seem to think it favours Lizardman over the Tomb Kings. Ooh, we've got is that an Engine of the Gods? Engine of the Gods, Skink Heaven's Priest. Now that is a proper blender for the Tomb King infantry. Arkan the Black on a chariot. So far, he has cut one spell. Fate of Buna has been cut, and so has Doom and Darkness. So he won't be debuffing morale, and he's lost one of his single attack, but he's brought the summons large items of skeletons. Comet Cassandora, Curse of the Midnight Wind, Wind Blast, Harmonic Convergence. Really, what the 4 spells I expect from Cowboy's casters, to be honest, he's fairly consistent on that count. Quite good at getting people to blob and dropping a comet on them. Carnosaur, no surprises there. If there's a Necro Sphinx on the other side, though, that might come back to bite him. Though the weapon strength that the Carnosaur can get with Primal Instincts is staggering. Chosen of the Gods and the Blessed Legion. Necrotect, yeah, I'm expecting a few constructs from Ragnar. He is going to have 4 sets of infantry, though, for the End Times tournament rules. They are slightly different to the normal tournament rules. Yeah, the map dynamic of this one could be very interesting. I mean, the Chosen of the Gods with that big rock in the middle is going to give Cowboy a means of approach without being shot at. If he puts his Carnosaur behind that, flanks around, there's no Tomb King infantry aside from, I suppose, Heavy Tomb Guard that are really going to be able to stop it. Ushabti being the other one. But even then, a Carnosaur against Ushabti. Difficult, yeah. I think Primal Instincts with its timing, as PD says, is going to be one of the most important things, and it's looking like a mostly skink build. which means Cowboy will be able to run rings around the Tomb Kings. They're not exactly the fastest of factions, being dead and all. But interesting, quite a lot of snakes and a Heretitan. Yeah, it is a lot of skinks. I'll show you the stat lines of these skinks. They are significantly better in the end times than they are in the base game, and they've got strong vigour. So the undead as well, for anyone who doesn't know, have the Dead Rise. So while ever they're not crumbling, they have constant regeneration, come back from the dead, and take no vigour loss. So the undead don't get tired, and so bringing the skinks that also don't tire as much makes a lot of sense. It looks like he's gone for triple Pterodon. I'm assuming that is going to be his answer to the constructs, because the skeletons, of course, with the missile resist, aren't going to receive much damage, but they do have poison, so the poison will help counteract the regen a bit, effectively dealing damage straight into the regen cat pool. Gorok, complete monster. And yeah, the skinks, on the whole, very fast, larger than the base game, physically, in size. Apart from the skink cohort, which are their normal small selves, but they've got those 3 javelins. Oh, welcome to Gastra. And that's Cowboy's army finalised, and Ragnar, so we'll get straight into this first game. Skeleton Horseman, good to see, and Tomb Guard with halberds. I pick and choose the editions that... Yeah, I take a lot from the second edition. I pick and choose from whichever edition best suits my needs. I use the editions as much to excuse what I want to do as I do to actually base it. And the tabletop stats are pretty much ignored. The lore is researched to try and get it to be what it is, and then I go from there. Gameplay's priority, but I use lore the same way I have used history in historical titles as that basis. I go find out what it is and then decide how I want that to be in game. So yeah, this is the huge rock I'm talking about. Yeah, a lot of the new units are second edition. The dwarves in particular have had a lot of and Norska have had a lot taken from the second edition. Sixth is better. I'll have to look at 6th edition. I tend to look at a lot of the wikis and things like that, and they often have links to saying, well, this is the 2nd edition thing, and then there's a Sil who I don't know if that's his name on Steam. It's definitely his name on Discord. He posts unit lists for modders saying these are missing units that have been found and compiles all the data and then has links to them. A lot of those are 2nd, 3rd edition. The Wood Elf Kindred of Lacoya, an old one. The Bondsman, the Huskals, all that sort of thing. Eventually, if I ever get anyone interested who does unit texturing and modelling and so on, I'd like to see a lot more 2nd edition Norskans come to the mod. Far more interesting than Chaos Light. Okay. Plenty of constructs. That Necrotect, of course, for anyone who doesn't play the mod much, Restore is now a passive in, I believe, 150 meter radius. So it'll be clocking in around there. Apologies for the awful circle, but it'll be about that big. And they won't get any fatigue and will be healing in that radius. So he'll keep his constructs fairly tight. Vanguard Skeleton Horseman on the hill. They'll be seen off by Pterodons fairly quickly. Though with the missile resist, they may just be able to ignore the Pterodons, force them down into combat and actually trade up. Though it's the ROR, Power-Axe Sentinels, they have the melee stats to see off the Skeleton Horseman. But Ragnar does need to lose some units in order to get his Realm of Souls at Shabti, so... And Arkan the Black, even with his recent debuffs, is going to be fairly significant especially on a chariot. He can pick and choose his engagements, and that'll really help him get his raise skeleton warriors ability charged. Cowboy going for an asymmetrical build. Both ready. Been given the go ahead. And we'll get into this first battle. We'll take a few seconds to assess. Yeah, I think PD's right. I think the Heretitan's going to be a major part of this, as indeed of the Chosen of the Gods. But the Heretitan being right at the back of the formation, I'm not sure what the logic is there. Maybe he's just wanting to... the idea of the Heretitan to be something to deal with, stop Cowboy being quite as aggressive. Because it is decent against flyers as well, with Spirit Leech and the Burning Gaze, Shem's Burning Gaze. It can give a little bit of extra. He doesn't have many archers though, he's just got the 2 units, but they do synergise reasonably. Hakon the Black at the front with his back to the enemy. Definitely being used as bait, but I think a little obviously so. I don't think Cowboy's going to take the bait. I think it was a little bit too signposted. Chosen of the Gods firing into the red-crested skinks, doing a big chunk of damage, and I think... oh, that's not ideal. Looks like we may have had a crash. We'll be restarting the stream if that's the case. I don't know if the sound is still coming through, but if it is, we're going to relaunch. Shouldn't take too long at all. You can hear me still. Okay, that's good. In that case, let me know when the video comes back, and we'll get going. Apologies about this, it does happen occasionally in multiplayer. And we will treat it as we did yesterday with PD's game dropping out. And we will just write off the game, bans will be reset. And we will just treat it as if it never happened. That will be the... we will do the Devastation of Ostermark. One I had actually intended to do yesterday, but forgot it existed. Well, I forgot its name. So the map's the Devastation of Ostermark, and we will have... Cowboys banned the Vampire Coast instead of Chaos, and then Ragnar to ban. Ban Chaos. Multiple attempts at spelling Chaos there, struggling. Ragnar. Definitely one to type far too fast, but what can I say? Ragnar's to bar, apparently. Yeah, I'm not the best typing ever. So, Cowboy as Britonia, interesting. I had some games with Cowboy earlier. where he played Bretonia and I was Wood Elves, and we designed an army afterwards for what I thought was one of the best counters to the Wood Elves, and in that conversation looked at how that build could be adapted to fight different factions, and came up with a very good baseline for Bretonia. Okay, Ragnar is going for the War. Greenskins against Bretonia. Now, Greenskins weren't one we discussed on that basis, so he might go for a completely... No, he has gone for exactly the army we discussed to then adapt from there, and I do think this is one of the most micro-intensive but best armies I've seen for any faction. Light infantry basis with flanking and holding forces, longbowmen to deal that extra long-range damage, yeomanry, skirmishing, high skill, not very good against armour but still useful, amount of squires for that hybrid role between the two, knights errant to hold, knights of the realm to coming crashing, questing knights for that AP, mounted yeomen and wands of Montfort with DOT poison, prophetess of beasts. Yeah, I'd probably swap one of the longbowmen for arbalists in this one, because the downside of this is if he brings a rogue idol. Yeah, I'm terrified for Ragnar too, God, with this build. It's a potent one. Prophetess with all spells as well, so it will be able to transform into a manticore if things go wrong. So he's effectively got himself a melee lord and a magic lord. Of course, there's absolutely no melee capabilities until the transformation. 34-30, so worse than the men-at-arms. And I will take a very short break while Ragnar builds his army. Be back momentarily. And I've returned, and we'll get straight into this one. Grimgor, Ironhide, a Giant, and a Big 'Un. Both going to be, well, all of which going to be quite difficult to bring down. The Savage Orcs won't have any problems whatsoever with that Bretonian front line. They will really go to town on that. Ragnar was on the left, though, which means that the red deployment area is cowboys, and that cavalry will like that start position. Can come back to bite, though. I've seen people try and hold the hill many times, and it come back to bite them. I'm liking the army from Ragnar, though. Definitely a ballsy move. Yeah, the lack of mobility, but if you're looking at fighting Cowboy's army, you're never going to have as much mobility as him, no matter what you bring. So, there's something to be said for having a very strong core. The problem is, of course, I didn't see what he cut to get the questing knights. I think it was probably 2 yeomen. Yes, it was. He only got 2 yeomen, but the yeomen will do very well against the Savage Orcs, and so indeed will Curse of Unpronounceable, the direct damage and slow spell for the Beastcaster. The giant, he's got a bit of speed in the giant, and he can hide things. If he uses his Night Goblin Shaman to hide the big one and the giant and Grimgore in one interesting choice of, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. How much armor does the giant have? The giant, I forget, has 30. So the giant will definitely suffer from all these missiles. The problem's going to be bringing down this big one. A lot of this army is going to swing all around the big one. Practically infinite ammo by the time you've got 20,000 health. You can just keep taking a little bit of health off and throw. If Cowboy packs his forces tightly, then he's in trouble. But it looks like he's spread them. Of course, that does mean there are a few gaps, but a giant can easily go through there. The gap is wider than a giant. Is Grimgore too? Definitely the issue Cowboy's going to have. Both deploying in the lowland. Whether the cavalry will or not, I would expect that the cavalry is going to deploy over on this right flank to come down the hill, while the infantry keep the orcs on the lowland. That's certainly how I'd do it. But as I believe I've already mentioned, this is definitely one of the more micro-intensive armies I've ever seen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 units of cavalry. And all the infantry are light ones that need manoeuvre. The knight leading the battle pilgrims on the flank. Men-at-arms at the front. Interesting that the sword men-at-arms slightly more defensive, probably the best call, but they don't brace. So the bracing's been kept for the flanks, the extra defence for the front, and the flanking battle pilgrims where they need to be. Yeah, I agree completely with PD's assessment. The big one is going to be nasty, and I'm wrong. It's 10 units of cavalry because there are some mounted yeomanry in the back. Are they hidden? No, they're not hidden, so they'll be a nuisance. But these night goblins that have just disappeared, I'm not quite sure where they've gone. Oh, they're just here. Yeah, a bit less vulnerable now. A better position from Ragnar than he had before. And yeah, Cowboy has opted to go on the middle level with his calf, giving him a bit of flexibility. Probably wise. Gives him an inroad through here. And that Night Goblin Shaman of Ragnar's is going to get spotted pretty much instantly. Cowboy is ready. Ragnar is ready. The go-ahead's been given, and we're getting in to what is the first game. We'll ignore the crash game. Biggan's first shot, a lovely one. 7 horse archers bite the dust in the first throw. By comparison, no spear boys died to the first volley. Far too much shield and HP to care a great deal about those horse archers. But the poison from the Wardens of Montfort is really going to chunk them down a little bit more. De Biggen giving that buff of the spirit of Gork or Mork. A bit of extra leadership, not that the orcs really need it, but the goblins will benefit from it. Ragnar has either not seen the yeomen or decided to ignore them. Surprised he's let the giant go in first, because it's definitely one of the things that the archers are most going to like to fight. And the poison hitting both the giant and missing a few times and hitting the Night Goblin Fanatics. Definitely almost a bonus to the... Grimgore is going to push straight through these men-at-arms. Is he going to carry on into the archers? No, he's going to go for the Life Prophetess. Beast Prophetess. The cavalry's coming around and Grimgor is beelining. Is Cowboy going to notice in time? Just in time enough to get a rear attack on the prophetess, and that's a big chunk of her health gone before the knights errant arrive. And the giant is in the back, going straight for the beast prophetess. That is what looks like Curse on one and Flock of Doom on the other. But Curse of the Bad Moon's coming down on the yeoman. That'll be Overcast Curse on that flank, which is going to make a big difference. I'm liking Ragnar's position, I must say. I think he is pulling ahead so far, but as the micro gets less difficult and less things to juggle and just the powerful units in Cowboy's army remain, that may change. Horse archers skirmishing back, and the infantry have just crumbled. No longer... Oh no! That amber spear stopping before it hit Grimgor and killing a load of knights errant. But the arrival of the yeomanry has pushed things back. The battle pilgrims are still standing firm, and the big gun being used at close range and well. Everything is terror routed. Only the cavalry remain for Bretonnia and a single set of battle pilgrims. The goblins appear to be routing, but they're not, so they will get a couple of attack animations in and get some poison. Cavalry have been stalled by the spear boys. It's definitely a challenge to use this army against the orcs, but that charge makes a big difference. Things are starting to recover, slowly but surely, for Bretonnia. The troops are rallying, the cavalry being the force here, doing well. Mounted squires might get caught out here. 15 friendly kills for the Lady Eye. The big gun completely surrounded, and the orc spear boys getting a bit of AP damage into the side of the Knights of the Realm. With battle pilgrims in their rear, they are going to break. This is still anyone's game. This cavalry engagement with Grimgor and a giant. Oh, the giant is about to bite the dust. 879 health left. Mounted squires in the back with chargers home. Not huge weapon damage, but on the charge they do get much, much more. And that could be another Curse of the Bad Moon. If that goes off without Cowboy pulling his cavalry out, that can do a significant amount of damage. He's done a fair chunk, and it is curving. No, it's moved away. If that curves back towards the cavalry, though, that can do a lot. What's just recovered? It is the Night Goblin Shaman. I'm assuming that was an overcast, and the miscast routed it. There's nothing else really contesting it. Lost track of Cowboy's Lord. I don't know whether she's dead, but she hasn't turned into a Manticore. Looks like she's not on the field, though, by the minimap. And the giant falls, bringing a few Knights of the Realm down. Knights of the Realm have stalled before getting the nice charge off on the Savage Orcs. Balance of power liking Ragnar's position. I'm really not sure who has this, though. The big un will crumble if the rest of the army goes down eventually. But Grimgor Ironhide, scarcely a scratch on him. 115 kills. Battle Pilgrim's very tired now. Exhaustion definitely going to be an issue. But if the big un, now that he's free, does he have range? He does have ammo. If he decides, instead of pushing through in melee, to throw some stones into this and support Grimgor that way, I don't see that Cowboy has a good response to that. He would have to melee the big un, and he doesn't want to melee the big un. It forces his hand and gives him area control over 2 areas. I think that will be the play here, though definitely intimidating seeing the big un come over for a rear charge on your infantry. He just wants a hug. And he's straight in there, tied up with mounted yeomanry. Now that is an excellent use of 400 gold, huge melee defence. Big un currently clocking in with about 42.5 melee attack. I don't actually know how the rounding's done, because you get a 50% penalty for being exhausted, which is debilitating for him, with him being a construct. He's pushing through without much issue. It's difficult to stop a giant hunk of rock if you're a horse. Grimgor will be, slowly getting chunked down. Oh, every hit from the big one is going to kill a couple of these knights, I would expect. 101 kills, 102 kills, 103 kills. Rising up through the ranks, 109. Grimgor Ironhide, 153. Bloodforged Armour keeping him back, and it could be that Ragnar has this. Just with the big one. And Grimgor Ironhide. Oh, the big one is struggling with his binding. It is only held together through the magics of the shaman, and they are not the greatest shamans in the Warhammer world, so it is a relatively low morale unit. The Wardens of Montfort really bringing the hurt, and they do have less ammo than other horse archers, but it doesn't seem to matter, they've still got enough. That big one taking huge amounts of damage, and of course poison being changed in line with vanilla to not affect your own troops. And the Bloodforged Armour goes down, and a big hit from the Rogue Idol. This is still anyone's game. I think Cowboy may just edge this out though, as that Rogue Idol starts to waver. The morale is a little bit higher on the Zealous Crusaders of Bretonnia than it is on the Orcs. But these hits from the big one up to 147 kills, Grimgor Ironhide 185. The Bretonians are starting to waver. But the Yeomen, the Longbows and the Wardens of Montfort don't do much per shot, but there's only so many times you can be shot by 150 men without it having an impact. But there is a chain rout beginning. All this battle now depends on the leadership of the big one. Wardens of Montfort being committed into melee, and that is not a bad choice at all. 70 attack, 40 defense. The big one will struggle to hit those. But as it hits to third tier, it will have rocks fall around it. It does bombard around and give him extra damage. He will become even more dangerous as he becomes injured. But the cavalry have recovered. And this is exactly what we were saying about the first games being good and close. I still don't even know who's ahead at this moment. It's been debilitated for some time now. Grimgor, of course, perfect vigour in this mod, standing a good height above the man atop the horse. Steady and fresh, 235 kills. Cavalry again falling back in waves, but there has been a chance for Cowboy to rest some of his troops. As PD's just said in the live chat, Cowboy has had an opportunity to rest here, but I'm not sure the morale is going to care. The second we saw Cowboy's army, we said it didn't have enough AP to deal with the Rogue Idol, and here we are, on the edge of being proved right and on the edge of being proved wrong. This is anyone's game. The third level has hit, the rocks have fallen, the damage is at its max at 1520. Grimgor Ironhide, what's he on now? 700. Plenty of leadership though, and felling many knights. It is definitely a shame that the Prophetess of Beasts didn't manage to get a couple more things off. If she transformed into a Manticore, Cowboy would have had this game. But Ragnar hitting her very early with Grimgor and then pursuing with the Giant, really stopping her getting her money's worth this game. A lot of it depends on the morale of the Bretonians. Winded and shaken battle pilgrims heading in, but it's looking like there might just be meat for the grinder at this point. If the big un falls, Grimgor will probably be hit with army losses. But if Grimgor goes down, the big un will disintegrate. That's the thing here. I think Grimgor has survived long enough to be the deciding factor of this battle. The big un has actually taken far more damage than Grimgor. While the focus has been on the Rogue Idol, no surprises, the giant rock monster is scary, but Grimgor Ironhide appears to be snatching victory. And what an amazing first game as Ragnar takes the lead 1-0 with a very bold, very effective Orc build. Well played to Ragnar. Well played to both players there. I think keeping up with any of the micro on that Bretonnian army is impressive from Cowboy. Next map, Empire Unfortified. Since they changed the Statue of Sigmar, it has become a much more interesting game. Because we've banned Chaos so far, and I do think Chaos is a strong contender for Cowboy's strongest faction. So I'll be surprised if we don't see the Decadent Host or Chaos from Cowboy this game. From Ragnar, I would expect the Coast. Now, well, yeah, I agree, God. I think that's one of the best games we've had in a tournament. Cowboy bans Chaos. Ragnar is a strong Chaos, but they're both strong Chaos players, to be honest. So for anyone who isn't familiar with the End Times tournament rules, you can't reban, but you can repick. Ragnar picks Beastmen. Now that I didn't see coming, but he has had some good games as Beastmen before, and on this map. The pressure will be on Cowboy for this one. Cowboy, many people's favourite to win this tournament. So being 1-0 down to Ragnar will up the pressure a great deal. Cowboy picks Tomb Kings. Now I hate fighting Cowboy's Tomb Kings. He's very good with them. Doesn't often bring them out, but certainly powerful when he does. Tomb King's Beastmen is a difficult matchup for both. I'm not quite sure how I'd approach it with either. Malagor the Dark Omen with everything so far. Neither of his items, but with Savage Dominion, so he can turn into a Saigo when things go wrong. Cetra the Imperishable on a Chariot from Cowboy. Yeah, I think Ragnar came to the game much later than a lot of the players and struggled to get onto his feet when he first started. Has a habit of not taking battle seriously, but when you put him in a tournament situation and he's taking the game more seriously now that he has the experience, he is a formidable player. Underestimated even by himself. It's a powerful thing to be underestimated. The Eye of More Sleep making an appearance, which is good to see, especially since the recent buffs to Saigon melee, primarily in weapon damage. Necrospect on a Chariot to support whatever constructs may come, and I'm expecting a Necrosphinx. And really going for it with the Necrotect there. Double Slangor, single Razorgore. Again, picking a unit that doesn't get tired to fight the undead. Stops them having that war of attrition, supremacy that they naturally have. Nerkaran Warriors, Tomb Guard, and the Kepra Guard from Cowboy. A very fast-paced infantry battle. Tomb Guard with that armour, that big weapon strength. Ushabti giving a bit of support, and the Tomb Guard cut. Replaced with Skeleton Spearmen. I'm assuming the idea there is to get the Realm of Souls to trigger slightly earlier. Minotaur Butchers brought by Ragnar. I am liking Ragnar's army. And Korngol's. Going for both ends of the spectrum here with the unit that can last and the unit that can make the battle much swifter. Surprised if he's going for that it isn't a Pestigor. There aren't any ghost units that I can think of for the Kemrian War Sphinx from Cowboy. Does have a bit of cash left if I'm doing the maths right here. Will there be a Sphinx of Usvek or a Necrosphinx in this battle? I would hope so. King Nikesha's Scorpion Legion definitely going to put in the work. Armour will be brought down by the Blessed Legion, which will help with the Nakaran troops. Ragnar doubling up on the Minotaurs. Both army... Oh, Cowboy started his army again. Obviously uncomfortable with it. Cetra the Imperishable on a Kemrian War Sphinx this time. I can see the appeal of the switch. Save the money. You still have the War Sphinx for the pushing through. Ragnar is ready with his army, and it's a nice one. No archers, but against the Tomb Kings, that's a good idea. 2 Centigors, 4 units with perfect vigour. Some armour piercing and crashing through with the Razor Gors will be very good against skeletons. Ungor Herd, probably not going to achieve a great deal. I have More Sleep, double Minotaurs, Malagor the Dark Omen with plenty of spells and Arcane Conduit, Bestial Surge. He has cut something. It's either Devolve or Tritikin, I can't tell which. Okay, we've seen double Kemrian War Sphinx. I am surprised, given the Beastmen and it being Ragnar, that there isn't a Necrosphinx. Sure, the Kemrian War Sphinx will do alright against the monsters anyway, but it's no Necrosphinx. And we have the armies. The Kemrian War Sphinx will beat a Cygor, to be fair. But it'll take... There's not a lot of Minotaur killing power there. 48 Minotaurs on the field. And I'm not seeing a way I would like to fight them. They'll triple your Shabti. They'll do alright, I'm sure. Minotaurs will chunk through their armour, but they'll chunk through Minotaur's armour, so... By the time that there's a third set, that should be alright, really. I'm not sure which army I'd rather have, to be honest. There's a lot of spike damage, which is very good at dealing with the undead, and there's plenty of trees. So, Ragnar could look at taking this. I don't think there's much in the armies, though, so we'll see. A lot of this will depend how the players are feeling about the last game. And we're in. Of course, this map being much better than it once was. Once being a map I had a mod I subscribed to on the workshop dedicated just to getting rid of this map in campaigns, because it was such a pain when all this area was covered with trees. But having it opened up like this has turned it into a very interesting map. I've had some very good games on this one, but both sets of trees, the left and the right of this army, are very useful. And it's fairly symmetrical, a lot of similar decisions. A very balanced and interesting map. With terrain that you can really use to your advantage, but can really cause you some problems as well. You'll notice with the tournaments, the maps chosen will tend to be ones that have plenty of features rather than ones that don't have many. You'll never see MP Crossroads or the like. Horrendous map. A map with no features is a feature in itself, and it is not a good one. Eye of Moresleep isn't going to be easy to deal with. Nor's Malagor. Balance of power like in the Beastman, but when does the balance of power not like the Beastman? Yeah, it was the frequency, as DeCastro says. Anytime you ever had a battle in your entire Empire campaign, it tended to be on this map. You couldn't see anything. You were often using it to support an AI who didn't know what they were doing. And so it was a pain in single player with this map. A bit better in multiplayer. But it only arrived with its improvements to multiplayer as far as I can remember. Ungor's pushing straight for... In fact, the entire Beastmen are moving forward. Yeah, the next map will not be the Ultimate Darkness, PD. I'm not sure what it'll be. I haven't got a map list. It's more of a mobile thing, depending on the gameplay. Whatever I think will make it most interesting. Malagor the Dark Omen. Quite the sprinter. He may not be able to fly. But he's got the next best thing. Plenty of speed. The Necrotect will be able to move with the War Kitty. And double War Kitty. While assessing this, I really forgot the fear factor that double War Kitty would have when in game. Fall of Man is a very good map. I find it can be quite punishing to one side if not done right, and you can end up with less interesting games. I think both players know what they're doing enough for it to be interesting, but I try and avoid it, much as I enjoy playing it myself. Yeah, there won't be Hellfen this time, DeCastro. I discovered in our last tournament that it relies very heavily on people knowing what the map is. Mosquito Swamps will probably make an appearance at some point, though. That's a very good map. And we've started to have battle join. Ungor Herd against Skeleton Spearmen in the trees. No one really doing any damage to anyone here. Skeleton Spearmen, a couple of models lost, but regen. And a big charge from the Minotaurs, smashing straight through the skeleton lines. Lack of muscle does not help your mass. Skeleton Warriors getting chunked down. The Minotaurs taking practically no damage. And a cast of Vile type by the looks of things. Going down. Maybe even Overcast. Yeah, it was an Overcast. Malagor doing a big chunk of damage to himself, but practically wiping the skeleton units. Minotaur Butchers with a Incantation of Vengeance. And that is Cetra the Imperishable straight in there. Pushing a Minotaur out of the way to get to Malagor. He's going to struggle to get some attack animations off behind those Ushabti though. And on this flank, Kongor's pushing through. This is happening very fast. Kingdom Kesha's Scorpion Legion, Kongors and Minotaur Cleavers pushing through. But backed by the Blessed Legion of Fukhtar. Centigors and Razorgors, Slangors pushing on the right flank. This is not a good start for the Tomb Kings, but the losses coming early will mean more Ushabti, and of course, someone's not degrading in the mod will mean that those Ushabti stay all game. Kemrian War Sphinx been warp gazed by the Eye of Moresleep. Cetra the Imperishable, practically untouched so far. The right flank going in the favour of the Tomb Kings. The Necrotect just staying within range of the War Sphinx, and I believe giving it all the buffs. 80 attack, 65 defense, 870 weapon strength. Blessed Legion, no, King Scorpion Legion have been pushed back. They are disintegrating, so complete disintegration has hit. Blessed Legion of Redacted getting the hit through. That is plenty of kills, plenty of damage. Cetra the Imperishable buffed with the Incantation of Cursed Blades, really putting the hurt on the Eye of Moresleep, and this could be the second game in the row decided by big monsters. Ushabti being put down on the back of the Centigors. They have got a rear charge off, which has done a lot of damage. The Razorgors are going to put the hurt on these Ushabti. Nekar Warrior still 80 models fighting off the Slangors. Necrotect being gooned out by plenty of Minotaurs. This is anyone's game. Of course, the Ushabti, as well as the Kitties, will be getting that same buff, and it'll make a significant difference to them. Double War Sphinx, rather, pushing into that one. Oh, and look at that charge! Blood everywhere. Massive, massive hits from these Kemrian War Sphinx. A solid hit from the Eye of Morsleep right in the chest of Cetra's War Sphinx. Incantation of protection, making Cetra practically invincible for the duration. The Slangors and the Kongors are going to be a big deciding factor. And the Razorgors. I think the Razorgors have been, surprisingly, from Cowboy, who does play very well with Razorgors, underestimates that. The Necrotect rather has been netted. Kemrian War Sphinx taking big hits. If that Thygor goes down though, the weapon damage will be significantly smaller. Warp Gaze bringing that Necrotect down. I do not think he's going to escape this battle. But Cetra is on practically full health. Even an army of this magnitude, battered as it is, may struggle to bring down Cetra. Blessed Fire of Petragon down. Kemrian War Sphinx no longer immune to fatigue change. No. Oh, Devolve's gone down. Will make a huge difference to these units, to be honest, but all damage is damage, and there's no Necrotech, so the damage won't be coming back. Kemrian War Sphinx pushing through. I'm not quite sure what the goal is there, but it will... Oh, no, it won't. It will stall out of the charge as the Centaurs and Razorgors stop them. Every time, as PD says, Cetra is surrounded, there's a big chance that he will miscast and bring down a big chunk of units around him. Not sure if he has brought Incantation of the Skullstorm. If he has, he hasn't used it yet, which I'm surprised by. At this point, you would think he would use it if he had it. Doesn't appear that he does. He is giving charge bonus to the other Kemrian War Sphinx. Kemrian War Sphinx, weak and diminished. Minotaur Cleavers with Mantle of Korok. Cowboy has conceded! The favourite for the tournament. 2-0 down to Ragnar. Give them a moment, and then we will go into the second round of 3, and Ragnar is in the final. Yes, it'll be Alan and God now. Yeah, yeah, Ragnar's done well. And Cowboy will be back to face off against whoever loses between Alan and God. Just have a quick look for God in this list to invite. Not seeing him online in Steam, but it doesn't matter because he's in game. Mosquito Swamps will be the map. Just going to take the opportunity to... And we are back. Okay, map. Mosquito swamps. And God will be the first to ban. Greenskin to ban. I think that means he bans greenskins. God has banned greenskins against Alan. Okay. Alan to ban now. Alan bans dwarves. Yeah, I'm really excited for this matchup too. You thought the last games were good, and I think these will be just as good. Okay. God, I would expect to play... Oh, Vampire Coast. Oh, I don't want to pick. Alan picks Dark Elves. So they're both playing the factions that they most recently played in multiplayer, so no huge surprises there. Okay, we've got Charybdis. Cold One Knights, Shielded Dark Shards, Dread Spears, and what appears to Supreme Fire Sorceress on a Dragon. I'm liking this army already. God's Army, Double Depth Guard, Sirens, Deck Gunners, Fellbats, Vampire Fleet Captain, Luther Harkin on a Dragon. We've already got 3 flyers between the two. Shades and Dark Shards will have a big, and Dark Raiders, a big impact on the air war. Indeed, Deck Gunners and Handgunners similar. Can't be much money left for Alan to play with there. Maybe another 1,000. Oh, the Night Terrors making an appearance. Not as popular as they once were, but still a damned useful unit. Though I'm expecting Alan to be using a lot of Piercing Bolts of Burning. He's a menace with that spell. Burning Head making an appearance too, as is Fireball. God's Arm is finalised. Not an army I'd relish fighting myself. So then I'd rather use them face. A lot going for it. Not a lot in the way of pistols and things like that, which means the handgunners and the deck gunners don't have quite the melee stats that the other units could get. Mongols on the field. Mortar could make a difference on this map. There's a bit of undulation. Alan has added another unit. I don't see what it is. It may even be bleak swords. And we're off. A lot of this is going to be how each faction kills the armour of the other. I don't think God's got vast quantities of AP, but nor does Alan. I'm sure he's got the shades and the dark shards and the blackguard, but he's going to have to fight 2 depth guard with those, and the flying units. Luther Harkin is going to be able to stop the fire mage on her dragon from being able to cast. Not all the time, but enough to matter. Especially with Hornswoggle. If God can manage to get the dragon slowed with Hornswoggle and then supported with the ranged, it'll make a big difference. Whereas Alan doesn't really have a way of stopping the Terrorgeist from moving. There are very small bits of water which will benefit, such as here, which will benefit the coast, but not enough that it'll actually make a significant difference to the battle apart from very limited gaps. Mongols vanguarded to the back right? Oh, he's pushing himself way back. I'm surprised. Luther Harkin flying overhead. The Charybdis also will get the same buffs in the water, but obviously they'll neutralise to an extent each other's buffs, though as it's a percentage of your unit, it can make a difference to one more than the other effectively. You know, if you're using, for example, Bretonnian peasants against Tyrion, and they're both getting a 30% increase, you're going to notice it more on Tyrion. No, obviously I've used an extreme example to make it obvious what I'm talking about. The Charybdis, I think, is going to be one of the most significant things on the field. The Charybdis and a dragon in the same army with cold ones and shades. I mean, it's not something I'd want to fight. Shades deployed in... I always find it slightly disappointing when this happens. When units with Stalk are deployed in the forest, it is slightly more effective in terms of game mechanics, in that you're harder at spotting trees than you are in the open, even with Stalk. But at the same time, is where the enemy look. They're expecting hidden things in the trees. They don't expect hidden units in the open. Both are ready, and we are into the first game of this section. Dark Elves getting straight towards the enemy. I agree, Shades are an excellent choice in this. Not much they can catch them for the counts. And we're getting airbursts. Mortar reaches... Can't actually see its final range line. Is oh, it's yellow, that's why. It's back here. Airbursts will be scuffing the Dread Spears, but not doing huge amounts of damage. They've got the shields. When the mortar shells start landing behind, if he targets the Corsairs, he may airburst and kill Bleak Swords or Corsairs, or even miss and hit Dark Shards. That, personally, would be my pot of call, but actually he's gone for the Blackguard of Nagarond. He's gone for less certainty of a hit, but more chance of a more significant one. Perfectly valid. Deck Gunners firing off the shots into the Supreme Fire Sorceress, has been chased by Luther Harkon. retreating towards the shades. And that sounds like a summon. Are they risen deckhands? No, they're pirate deckhands. Not a summon. There it is. Dredge deckhands. But the Charybdis going straight in for the Vampire's fleet captain. It just not getting out of there in time, and that is a big chunk of health to have lost already. And it's increasing. Getting caught and shot. The depth guard coming towards it. I'm still not sure what the plan's going to be for the depth guard. Pirate handgunners. What were they then? Oh, it was just the deck gunners I was seeing the smoke off and mistakenly identified as the handgunners. The handgunners are over on the left flank, supported by the Night Terrors, which are now visible. Fire Sorceress being used as bait for Luther Harkon, bringing down what I'm guessing, yeah, piercing bolts of burning. That is a good answer to the depth guard. Clip the Charybdis a bit, but it's well worth killing that many models. I think that the heck was probably meant to go onto the depth guard and misclicked. Mortar shells coming in. Plenty of crossbows chunking down Luther Harkon. Spell coming down, taunt coming down the Charybdis. The Charybdis is going to take a lot of damage and probably not going to be able to fight the Night Terrors because of it. Burning Head coming down on the back of the zombies. Probably going to do a bit of damage to the Dread Spears, but I'm assuming it isn't overcast to avoid having the AP damage so that it can be used on friendlies. Blackguard of Nagaroth being used as a reserve. They are unbreakable, but they don't get the... And Murderous Prowess has procced. If you thought the Dark Elves were doing well before, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because Blackguard of Nagaroth received no benefits from that, and they're the thing that's been out of combat. Quite possibly the reason they've been left out of combat, because they don't get the fatigue back like other units. The Fire Sorcerer is being chased by Luther Harkon, but being able to use the well-placed ranged units. The Shades now pumping their bolts into the side of the deckhands. Aren't going to achieve a great deal. Not a lot of armour piercing to fight the Dark Elves. Oh, big hit on Luther Harkon from that fireball. The Charybdis and then the Cold One Knights fighting the depth guard, not loving life, but still able with the piercing bolts of burning, weakening them earlier. The Night Terrors may be the last best hope. Not sure what that miscast was. Haven't seen what he cast. Could have been a Gaze and a Gash that didn't go off. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing Invocation anywhere. Which is what I expected it to be. And I think Alan is pushing towards victory here. The Night Terrors and the Vampire Fleet Captain still being alive. And Luther Harkon. But Luther Harkon, is there enough ammo left? That becomes the question. Has he left enough ammo? I think he has. The Shades meleeing against the Depth Guard. And using the Shades to make Luther Harkon hit his own Depth Guard. Losing 10% of their models to that volley. Shades melee being used. And, I'm not sure who's casting this. Burning Head. Blackguard are getting chunked down. Night Terrors. Oh, and it's curved! The Burning Head has curved and killed some Dredge deckhands. Vampire Coast starting to do a little bit better than they were before. Piercing bolts of burning coming down on the Night Terrors. Overcast, miscast. And that is a big hit. 22 Night Terrors were there before, 17 remain. The Charybdis has enough health to beat the Night Terrors, I've no doubt about that. Cold One Knights appear to have been forgotten, but I'm not sure it's going to matter. Dark Raiders, I'm surprised haven't charged the Pirate Handgunners, because that is an opportunity for the coup de grace in this battle. All it would take for Alan to take this is charging these handgunners, and he's doing it. He's realised and he's charging in. Luther Harkon trying to get a unit winning to buff his morale and stop him crumbling. But the dragon's landed. The dragon has landed. An overcast invocation of Nehek coming down to buff him. Don't think it's going to matter. The shades are out of ammo, but the dark shards are not. I think Alan has taken this first game. It's not over till it's over, but I think the writing's on the wall for this one. A miscast from the Supreme Fire Sorceress, hitting a fireball into Luther and that's done almost the same damage to each of them with the miscast. The Dark Shards, though, still with enough ammo to shoot Luther Harkin as he chases Supreme Fire Sorceress. Another piercing bolts of burning going down. Looks like a normal cast. Luther Harkin has fallen from the skies to the Dark Shards. Night Terrors chunked down, crumbling as the loss of their lord drops their leadership by that 5. Rear charge dropping it by yet more. Pirate handgunners have had complete disintegration, and that is game. Only the depth guard remain, and that's more of a formality than a real rout. Well played by both players there. Exciting game. 195 kills on the Night Terrors, but the Dark Elves, with that supreme aggression, very good pick against the Vampire Coast. Don't think they had the staying power or the killing power there. It was a well-rounded army, but I think it just fell short a little bit in a couple of aspects. Well played. Well played to both players. Alan to ban first this time. Oh, map first. We shall do the River Amaxon. Not a map. Not a map. Not a river, despite having it in the name. It's one of those with the river in the background. I would have liked to see some animated Hulks, I think, in God's Army. But it was very good. The Depth Guard, I do often think, are a very good pick. Actually, more chaff in that game I don't think would help. I think it would just mean that Murderous Prowess hits at an opportune moment, and I don't think they can get through the armour. I think less chaff, if anything. Hit almost the minimum to make it tournament legal in numbers, I think will be the way to go for the Vampire Coast in that matchup. Alan has banned Skaven. God, I suspect... No, he banned Chaos. I was expecting him to ban Lizardman. Alan typically, first and foremost, a Lizardman player, but God is fairly confident countering them. Alan picks Lizardman. No surprises there. God, I would imagine, will pick Greenskins. Oh, and he has. Feeble War with only one A there, but hopefully his army is far more War than he's typing. Not sure what we'll see as Lord. Maybe Grimgo. Might be a repeat. Maybe even Skarsnik. He's coming to that decision later. A couple of Savage Orcs to chew through Skinks. Orc Shaman getting the magic, which means I think we'll be getting either Grom or Grimgo. Cutting it down to the gaze of Mork. Foot of Gork. Here we go. He's ditched the Foot of Gork. It looks like he still has Brainbuster. Alan bringing Saurus Old Blood on a Carnosaur. Skink Heaven's Priest on a Pterodon. With Chain Lightning, Comet Cassandora, Cannons. Wind Blast and Curse of the Midnight Wind. Oh, he's bringing all spells. Hadn't noticed Harmonic Convergence chilling out on the end there. Cohort of Sotek. Often a very strong pick. That ability to not die is exactly as good as it sounds. Saurus Warriors as a front line, getting that armour to stop Savage Orcs being quite as effective. Spiky Rollers chunking down the armour. That is a good pick, and not one I've seen yet in either of these tournaments. Yet to see the Spiky Rollers make an appearance, but they're a strong unit. Salamander Hunting Pack and Cold One Spear Riders for the flanks. And for dealing with anything large like a Rogue Idol. Of course, the Rogue Idol in this has the slight weakness to flame damage. 10%. So the Salamanders will be doing effectively 16 more per 10 seconds. A couple of Boar Boys. Not sure how they'll cope with Cold Ones. It's not a matchup that either of them particularly like, but they are cheaper. Cold Ones, the better unit, though fewer in number. Slightly less HP on the Cold Ones. I wouldn't... It's not a fight I would like as a Cold One. I'm not sure whether... I think they'll probably win it in a direct, even fight. But the Orcs will trade up. And a bit of Daka. Some Forest Goblins. Giving that bit of poison. And we'll see. Revivification Crystal and Croxigores. Red Crested Skinks. Not going to be many good targets for the Orc. Savage Orcs, rather. Skink Skirmishers making an appearance. And some changes to the caster there. Cutting Chain Lightning and Cannons. Still got Rolling Skies. I am surprised he's bothered bringing that. Though I suppose if there was a Wyvern, it would matter. Swiftness of Eitzel? I can't tell from here. Skink Skirmishers. Gotta say, I think both armies have been very well done here. And the Skink Skirmisher was swapped for a Chameleon just before the end there. And we're in. Spiky Rollers, I think, going to make a difference here, though Flappers in this amount of trees probably would have been rather useful. But the Armour Sundering might actually facilitate the Savage Orcs. I think, if anything, I slightly prefer God's Army for this game. Preferred Alan's last game, preferred God's this game. We shall see. Of course, this is the best of 3, so if Alan wins this, he faces Ragnar in the final. Not sure whether Cowboy is around to do the 3rd place. Something may have come up. He did say he wasn't sure he was going to be able to do it anymore. And he's offline still. We'll see by the time it comes around whether he's been able to free up the time or not. Obviously, the 3rd place is more for the entertainment of it, and we get it where possible. But it's not a big deal if we can't. Real life, obviously, taking far more of a part for it. It's more significant. And God is ready, so we have God set up. Savage Orc on that flank, Savage Orc on the other. Yeah, people tend to go with symmetrical builds. Orc Arrow Boys. Orc Boys, Orc Spear Boys on the flanks, Black Orcs supporting, and Spiky Rollers on each flank with, yeah, it's a complete symmetrical build. Oh, except for the Orc Boar Boys, who are both on the right flank, and the Forest Goblins in the forest getting their buffs. Lizards, we'll give them the go-ahead. Saurus frontline, Skink supporting. Vivification Crystal out on the right flank. I am surprised. They tend to be nearer the centre of your army, typically. Whether he's intending to use it more in a melee role with a bonus of the Revivification Crystal rather than as a healing platform. Probably wise. I think that's looking likely at this point. Now, just let me know, is the stream slightly grainy for you guys compared to normal, or is it just because I've got it up on the phone to see all the live chat stuff, and it's just gone slightly grainy for me. I'm not sure if it's my upload or my download, so just let me know how it's running for you guys. And the hidden units have been revealed, probably the Forest Goblins, yeah. Orc Boys pushing forwards, Inner Walk and Croxigors smashing their way through. Gorgeous charge. Orc Arrow Boys firing in from the back. And it was Skarsnik. Wish I could remember why I thought Skarsnik was a good pick. Ah, that's why. Spite of the Bad Moon. Expert charge defense. And Cowboy has been able to make the time, so Cowboy is going to have the 3rd place game. Saurus Warriors pushing through against the Orc Boys. Oh, and a miscast. Means there's a big spell going on. Not sure what it is. Maybe a harmonic conversion somewhere. And we've got, here we go, chunking down the Saurus Warriors. Forest Goblins getting exactly as eaten as you would expect when charged by dinosaurs and a goblin. Comet of Cassandora missing the Orc Boar Boys. Really getting into the backlines there. I think the Saurus Oldblood will be considering going to intercept, or even once the... yeah, it has done. Cold-Blooded there I think would be useful. Cold-Blooded onto the Saurus to speed it up. Onto the, onto the Saurus Oldblood to speed it up. Spiky Rollers fighting Skinks. A pity really, because they'd be so useful against the Saurus. Full surround off on those, and a debuff because of the Midnight Wind going down on the Black Orcs. Good choice, given that it gets rid of some armour. Nice wind blast through the Savage Orc Biggins. I think this is going to be a very close game. I'm not seeing any victor emerging as yet. Croxigors chunked down to half health, but a quarter of their models are missing, so that still got a high damage output to health ratio. Spiky Rollers chunking down their armour, sundering it down to a mere 70, which, while high for a lot of units, 70 on a Croxigor's low. Wow, has just procced as the Comet of Cassandora smashes down into the Orc Boys. Orc Shaman pushing through, deciding to take the opportunity to flank the Saurus. Skarsnik with Spite of the Bad Moon giving that bracing. skink. Heaven's Priest taking a big gaze of Mork. Spiky Rollers taking the opportunity to rest slightly. An exhausting fight. A unit that relies so heavily on its melee attack definitely needs to rest. Cold One Spear Riders driven off by the combination of the big uns and the ball boys. Big uns having a very slow hitting but damaging attack. Chameleon Skinks though, ripping into them. They've been terror routed by the Carnosaur. All ball boys pushing in. And pushed back by the Chameleons. The Chameleons making a big difference here. The Orcs winning the infantry fight though. Still got a Carnosaur and a Bastillodon to kill though. No easy feat. Fermented Fungi making a low defense but high attack on the Carnosaur, pumping it up to 103 attack. Beating away the Black Orcs. Salamander hunting back are starting to break. And the gaze of Mork into the Skink Heaven's Priest. A very underrated spell. A lot of the magic missile ones, in fact, I find people shy away from, and every time I see them used, it goes pretty well. Comet of Cassandora forming in the skies, coming crashing down into the Black Orcs. A dinosaur going way of the actual dinosaurs to death by comet, but mostly that is on target. Fresh Spiky Rollers now. Croxigores heading in. Distinct absence of Fat Lady singing in either direction here. It's not over. Croxigores pushing past the Bastillodon. But exhausted. Wind Blast. Mostly disrupting rather than dealing much damage. But it's still useful. You saw in the last tournament, if you watched, on Iridium's War Dancers, the effect of being spaced out compared to how tightly packed with some of the cavalry charges it faced. Even on a bracing spear unit like that. And I am back. Didn't think it had moved much from here, so start something really quick. Skink Heaven's Priest getting pushed around by Spiky Rollers. Revivification Crystal sending the Orc Shaman absolutely flying. If Ragnar has to go, I'll find out. Balance bar starting to swing in favour of the Lizard Men. I was fairly sure the Orcs had this. Exhaustion, I think, playing a big role. Dealing with these big monsters. Very difficult to chunk something down with half your melee attack, but the Orcs recovering and the balance bar swinging back towards the Orcs. Exhausted. Most things on most sides are exhausted. Spiky Rollers pushing through. Revivification Crystal. Okay, and it will be the third place playoff before the final. Thanks for that one, Ragnar. Oh, and a big hit from the Gears of Mork. Chameleon Skinks really punching above their weight this game. 93 kills, and that's not including poison damage, dealing damage to entities that didn't die. And that is the death of Skarsnik. And with it, army losses. Minus 25 morale from where it previously was. The Black Orcs taking hits in the rear, which will break them. And that's game. I did not see that coming, and I doubt many of you did either. 2 wins in a row to Alan. Well played to both players. And this is the tournament of the underdogs. The less experienced players coming in with some very, very good play. I do not for one second believe that God and Cowboy have played poorly in any way, shape or form. I think they've played very well, and I think Alan and Ragnar have really raised the game. I will, because that is 2-0. Okay, and I will kick Alan and invite Cowboy in the battle for third place. The matchup of God and Cowboy being the one that many people thought was going to be the final. No, that's not the map I thought it was. Ah, I know what we'll do. We'll do the map, I remember the name of it. Bloodfire Falls. And God to ban first. Hopefully they've taken a look at the map and not relied on my abysmal typing. God bans Chaos. I'd be scared of Cowboy's Chaos too. Of course, next game it can't be banned, so there is a good chance of seeing it at some point this game. This tournament, rather. Bans Dark Elves. Okay, that means God to pick. Not sure why he's banned Dark Elves, possibly because God's good at them. Possibly because he's got a faction. God's playing Greenskins again. The vampire counts. Interesting. We did see those yesterday. It'll be interesting to see what Cowboy does with them. Cowboy has fought God before as the counts, and last time he brought a full Strigoi based army and went for pure aggression of the counts, bring in plenty of crypt ghouls and crypt horrors, and had that sort of army. So it may be that God decides to build a build to fight that. Whether Cowboy will decide to go with it again because it's worked, or go with something completely different to have that psychology and have God counter a build he never brought, I couldn't tell you. But I'll grab some water and return very shortly with God's army being built on screen for you. And we're back. So this is the first round of the third place playoffs for anyone who has joined partway through. God playing Greenskins, Cowboy playing the Counts. Plenty of skeletons. I'm surprised to see that against the Greenskins. He must be expecting a fair chunk of Daka. It looks like he is expecting God to counter. Apologies for that, microphone's unplugged. It appears that he's expecting God to counter the Strigoi style army, and there are 3 archers on the field. So, yeah, 3. And there's still units coming, plenty of goblins. Hasn't brought much that's armoured. Looks like he is expecting a Strigoi army. Intends to counter it in melee. Grimgor and Vlad von Carstein both on the field. Has the Orc Shaman brought? Yes, he has. Gaze of Mork. Makes the Mortis engine. Very interesting. And a Banshee. Double magic. And Revenants. Not often you see people bring Revenants. That low leadership tends to mean that they're primarily used to summons. Of course, the summons for this army, because Vlad's so hard to bring down, even for a beastly character like Grimgor, that I think he'll probably get all his summons off. He does have the Von Carstein ring, so even if Grimgor makes it to him, as he likely will, it might not matter. No cavalry for the Counts, and I've often said that the Counts live and die by their cavalry, but I'm happy to be proved wrong. And there are Savage Orc Araboys on the field. I'm surprised to see as many Savage Orcs as there are against a faction with so much magic, but there's also a faction with very little armour. Though with 2 sets of encased. Certainly plenty on this particular battle. The encased definitely coming into their own since the 100 gold decrease in their price. Big sort of area of effect damage spells, wind spells, and vortexes, things like that, and even archers, especially AP ones. Really stopping them getting the usage that they are more recently starting to enjoy. And this tournament, I hope everyone else has found it too, has been nothing but interesting so far. Entirely wrong in my own predictions. I was almost dead on yesterday, but today has been a day full of surprises. Solid play all round from everyone, and it's great to see. Always an interesting map with the big forest on one side, the hills everywhere, and water to contest with in the centre. Because the Mortis engine can push straight through this water, as indeed can the Banshee, without any ill effect. Don't really get your feet wet when you're a ghost. Deploying on the reverse slope, I expect, isn't going to stay on the reverse slope. I imagine it will move on to the top of the brow of the hill. A reverse slope often being a good pick against artillery factions and strong range, but I doubt it'll be the case here, because it's the Counts. Balance of power only just liking the Orcs, and the Counts usually have a significant disadvantage on the balance of power, but the regeneration and the summons tends to make them come back beyond what the AI predicts. So it is interesting to see that in this particular battle, he thinks it's going to do alright. It's almost dead even, very slightly in the favour of the Greenskins. Skeleton Spearman. And impenitent to deal with any armoured units. Shambling around. The lava from the river. And there's a nice little bit of background there. And one player's read it, and it is Cowboy and it's God. Been given the go-ahead. The Orcs. Goblins is a secondary row. The game has temporarily frozen, which means someone's internet is struggling. The Cowboy has dropped from the game. Of course, God would have seen Cowboy's army, so it's unfortunate. See if we'll give Cowboy a minute to see what happens. Hopefully, it isn't a power outage or some such that he can't do anything about. Yeah, I'm guessing the internet died. I'll give him a couple of minutes to see if his computer needs rebooting or whatever before he could reply, reset his internet hub, that sort of thing, and if it isn't, then we'll move on to the final and see about doing that after. Shame we didn't get to see that battle play out. I was a big fan of both armies there. Steam is offline, so it does look like internet was lost. Okay, it looks like Cowboy's working on getting it back up and running. So we'll continue with this. Internet death by cat. Cat knocked the router over. Not something that tends to be a deciding factor in the tournament. Strange things happen. The map will change to Bloodpine Woods, and the bands will be reset. I'll let Cowboy, God, know in advance. The bands are going to be reset. But I think a very interesting tournament so far. I was expecting more 2-1 engagements than there's been. But I'm very surprised. It's been very interesting. Hasn't been a bad battle yet. Apologies for the delay. Is the nature of doing things live. Yeah, it turns out he actually had 3 War Sphinx in that last game, as Alan's pointed out in the live chat. Hopefully he'll be back with us very shortly. Apologies for the delay on this. Not much I can do, I'm afraid. Bloodpine Woods should make for an interesting game, though. I think it's a map everyone's familiar with, as practically every player's played Empire at some point and had it as an ambush at least, so they're familiar with it. And it's better not as an ambush map, it's better used cut north-south. Terrain interesting, hill raised ground on both sides, interesting use of forest. I think it'll be interesting to see the interaction with the map on this one. Still not been able to get back online, it seems. Interesting to see any predictions for this best of 3 in the live chat. I'm not sure how this is going to go. God, taking a look at Vampire Coast. Looks like he might end up playing those. Either that or just reassessing the earlier game as the Vampire Coast and deciding what should be different and so on. I think there's a strong chance he'll play them again. And with the counts not being necessarily being played by Cowboy this time, now that God's seen the army he was going to go for, it may be that we see a bit of Cowboy chaos. And I suspect I'll bring Bloodfire Falls back later in the tournament, perhaps in the finals. Because with the bulk of the tournament still to go, swapping it so that it's delayed for God and Cowboy, I'm reluctant to. Cowboy is resetting everything, getting it all working again. The flicking my mouse was doing on the screen that doesn't seem to be doing anything is me checking on Discord and Steam to see if he's been able to get back online yet. Maybe the lobby needs rehosting by the time it gets around. It won't be a big issue if it is. Alan versus Ragnar in the finals. Yeah, De Castro. Okay, Cowboy said he hasn't managed to get it to start again, so if we do the final first and see if we can. So I'll just let God know. So Alan and Ragnar, hopefully watching the stream, I'll be able to let them know to hop in. Okay, so if we get Alan and Ragnar in here for the final. This is a best of 5. Wait, oh, he's changed his name as Ragnar. Sorry, God. Okay. Oakenhammer, the map. Not sure if PD's had to go. It is typically a time of day when it... Oh! I'm going to rehost the lobby. Since Alan's dropped, it might be that he couldn't change factions. Alan is rejoining. Oh, helps for host as a spectator. There we are. And we are back in. It's not been the most stable tonight for players, but hopefully this will be the end of the problems. Okay, Ragnar's in game, that's good. And both players are here. Map is Oakenhammer, Rag. Ragnar bans Dark Elves. No doubt he saw Alan's good play of the Dark Elves earlier. Alan to ban now. Alan bans Beastmen. Okay, Ragnar to pick, and I think he may have just swapped to the coast. Vampire Coast from Ragnar. I do think he's probably his strongest faction. Alan picks High Elves. Haven't seen Alan play High Elves very much. When he does, he tends to do quite well though. I'm expecting an actually Archmage on a dragon. No sooner had I said it than it appeared. RNS Assault Spite, Deep Fleet Captain. So far with 4 spells. So it has Vanguard's Revenge, Fog of the Damned, Denizens of the Deep, and Tide Call. Plenty of debuffing, big damage, and some crab. Yeah, I'm not sure we'll see dwarfs this tournament. In fact, we saw dwarves yesterday for the first time in any End Times tournament. Okay, we've got Depth Guard, Parrot Halberdiers, Scurvy Dogs, and Shade Wraith Gunners. Quite a nice army so far. Bear in mind there's also the Crab unit from the Summon. Alan, Phoenix Guard, and Triple Spears so far. Phoenix Guard, of course, are going to make a mockery of those crabs. But if a Vangeists manages to get into them, or even just some heavy debuffing, especially given that he's got... Oh, I see what he's doing. I've seen him do this tactic before. He has Spearfisher's Net and Vangheist's Revenge. And what he'll do is he'll net the Phoenix Guard or some other similar unit and put a Vangheist's Revenge through them. Sisters of Avalon, getting rid of any usefulness to ghost units like the Shade Wraiths. Dragon Princes, a massive stat line when you account for their martial mastery. Double Loddon Sea Guard, White Lines of Crace with the armor piercing, and Rahagra's Pride. This is gonna be very interesting. Night Terrors, saw them do well for God. This army almost looking like a highlight reel of the successful Vampire Coast games of the last tournament and a half. Double Scurvy Dog doing well for PD yesterday. Night Terror's doing well for God today. And the RNS Assault Spite and Deep Fleet Captain combination going well for Ragnar in the past. Ooh, Shadow Warriors. Don't see them every day. Nice unit. They like the poison of the Shadow Warriors, but they've got plenty in the way of melee stats. Good weapon strength. And that Stalk Vanguard. Firewall moving combination. Lethal. And there is a Silver Helms. Surprised it's not a Silver Helm Charger. But there we are. And there has been a quick change to Ragnar's army. Looks like some pistols are coming in. A deck dropper has been cut. Not quite sure where the extra cash has gone though. May still be deciding. Mortars the only artillery here. Deck dropper handgunners. Usually very powerful. Oh, and Rangers taking the flanks. Probably quite a good pick against the Vampire Coast, actually. Though not against Depth Guard. They'll do quite well against the Halberds, though. The Halberds being picked over the others for the extra AP and then bring in lightly armoured units. And we're into the first game of the final. Oakenhammer, the map. Ragnar, I believe, was on the left, which makes him the yellow box. Not a bad position for mortars, but much flatter than the contouring would have you believe. A slight tilt overall of the map. You see it best like this. Moving this way, there's definitely an advantage to cavalry chargers. Of course, there isn't any cavalry because of the Vampire Coast. The Depth Guard, definitely going to be one of the keys to this battle here. Shade Wraith Gunners. Mortar on the hill. I'm surprised it's on the hill, not over the hill. makes it a little bit more vulnerable for very little gain. But if you want it in that position for the timings on the shells, then makes sense. White Lions taking the centre, and Rangers in the centre is not something you see every day. Does make sense if you're expecting monstrous infantry with an infantry corps, though. Much more spaced out, and despite not having the shields and so on, the spacing does give them somewhat a better chance against a lot of the ranged units. Especially compared to the dense formations of these spearmen. Lord and Sea Guard, not dissimilar. And the Phoenix Guard, one of my favourite looking units, in at the back there. The go-ahead has been given. Oh, some slight changes from Ragnar before we go. And we are go. Attack order already been given on the Shade Wraith gunners into the Archmage. Surprised to see that. I'm not sure why the Shade Wraith are moving so far forward. Fireball coming in. So far the Shade Wraiths are not liking the fight, and the Dragon fairly happy to take a little bit of damage. The mortars, if they go off in the Rangers, will make a big difference. One Shade Wraith really getting ahead of himself. And the Archmage starting to take some damage, but as soon as the Sisters of Avalon get in range, no sooner said than done. Those Shade Wraith gunners are going to start, admittedly they're well spaced, so the Sisters of Avalon will miss a fair bit, but when they hit, the Shade Wraith gunners will melt, just like that. Half health on the Shade Wraiths. Rangers coming in for a big charge on the flank of the Pirate Halberdiers. Night Terror is moving out for a far flanking manoeuvre, supported by the Scurvy Dogs. Rangers facing off against Depth Guard is not going to end well for the Rangers. They may kill a few zombies while they're there. Plenty of decapitations going on. And the Vanguard's Revenge on the netted War Lions. A little bit close. I think he's maybe a miss, but if he gets lucky, it will hit the Rangers. No, it has hit the War Lions. And the Rangers! Vanguard's Revenge in one direction, Burning Head in the other. War Lions, a unit I thought were going to be very useful. Already chunked way down, but Phoenix Guard have not been hit by the Vanguards, which is what I had thought would be the goal. Piercing bolts of burning going down on the mortar. Really killing the crew there. Denizens of the deep. We're about to see a crab summon. First stage of water, and here are the crabs emerging. Right in the gap. And into the back of the Phoenix Guard. When your defence drops to 10% from the rear, it doesn't really matter that you've got 100, you really only have 10. Depth Guard coming into the Archmage. And a big skirmish fight. Silver Helms against Dogs. Silver Helms out with swords, for anyone who isn't familiar with the mod. And Spearmen chucking down the Scurvy Dogs. The Scurvy Dogs not really having many good targets, everything being somewhat hybridised that is a ranged unit. War Lions heading into the Depth Guard. All to play for. Another Spearfisher's Net Vanguard's Revenge combination on those Phoenix Guard will make a big difference. And a Tide Call coming down the Spearmen, giving them big debuffs. And somewhat spectacularly sending everything flying. And it terror routs. Terror routing while having a speed debuff tends to be a bad idea. Tends to mean you get killed, especially against fast vampires. The crabs. Not really loving life, but at least soaking up plenty of damage that could be going the way of the depth guard. And Night Terrors taking the full pounding. Spearfisher's net. Does this mean we're going to see another Vangeist? It does! 2 Vangeists in a 1v1. Tell me where else you could see this. Vangeist Revenge lines up, sending the Sisters of Avalon completely flying. It only killed 10 of them, but it got rid of 70% of their health. The Death Fleet Captain and the Crab going in, and a Burning Head in response. Well, that looks like it's going to hurt more Phoenix Guard than it is anything else. Phoenix Guard, I do believe, have what they don't. Think of the Dragon Princess. Almost finishing off his own Phoenix Guard there. I'm not sure he quite got the angle right on that. And it's hitting the Silver Helms. No, I'm sure he didn't get the angle right on that, but they are actually Archmage doing quite well. The Sisters of Avalon retreated so that their health doesn't matter. Doesn't have an impact on their accuracy, and it's chunking down the depth guard. Great to see. Spells this game. And another Piercing Bolts of Burning. Definitely something you like to see from Alan is a Piercing Bolts of Burning. He definitely uses them very well. Night Terror's pushing into Lothern Seaguard. This is where we see whether the fact that the Elven troops are hybrid is enough to win, or whether the Depth Guard are just going to be too much. These War Lions of Crace struggling. Avernus Assault Spite has broken. It's unlikely we will see any more Vangeist Spearfish and net combinations, but that is a big Fog of the Damned, a leadership debuff and attack, making it hard for the High Elves to chunk down through the regeneration. Gives the Undead a chance to become a bit more powerful. But if you're going to have a mage on mage fight, bring a dragon. That's slightly better for the elves, and he's using the Night Terrors as a blocker there. Depth Guard charging in the back against a weakened Lothern Seaguard. Exhausted versus fresh, sorry, very tired versus fresh. The Depth Guard really bringing the hurt. I have no doubt. The Sisters of Avalon, the only unit in the game that can shoot in that arc. Chunking down the Depth Guard. They can't have much ammo left. No, they don't. Fireball coming in on the Vampires' Deep Fleet Captain, and cancelled before it hit. And a Tide Call coming down on the Sisters of Avalon, cancelled by being knocked over. Night Terror's Rampager. Flanking attack by the Rangers being intercepted by the Depth Guard. On the other flank, the last of the Pirate Halberdiers are crumbling out of existence. Looks like a Burning Head trying to hit a few of the Depth Guard there. Cancelled. Decided against. Depth Guard into the White Lines of Grace. Phoenix Guard have broken. Lothern Seaguard have broken. White Lines of Grace have broken. Silver Helm's still an issue. But the Vampires do seem to be snatching victory from the claws of from the jaws of defeat. But have the High Elves just stopped that recovery? I couldn't tell you yet. Sisters of Avalon, another hybrid ranged unit. Doesn't really stand a chance against the Night Terrors and the Depth Guard, I think. But this, and a Vangeist Revenge? Maybe it will actually hit now. Unfortunately, couldn't go for the triple. Piercing Bolts of Burning, just missing the Depth Guard this time. That may be a big swing factor. The Deep Fleet Captain having a big breath attack down. And is that enough to break the morale? No, it's critical binding. And a Tide Call coming down. Debuffs for everything as he dies. A good way. Silver Helms have broken. The Silver Helms have broken. This is going to be a battle of dragon against vampire. Burning head. If it's overcast, the miscast may do as much as the cast in this instance, but he's pushing through, getting out of the way, and it may just intercept the reinforcing high elf spearman instead. And it has. He's cooked his own reinforcements. What looked like it was going to be a game-changing cast may well have been, but in the wrong direction. Lothern Seaguard, vampires amongst them. Fireball being cast. Not sure it's going to be able to get the angle on the unit to actually get the cast off. I think it's going to get pushed too much. Piercing bolts are burning instead. If this cast goes off, this could make a big difference. The heavens have opened. Fire's coming down, and a big hit. That's done a lot of damage to what's left of the vampires. Attacking has now got to happen by both factions. They have to stay in combat with at least one unit, so the dragon can take off while the others are recovered. Silver Helm's holding off the depth guard, but the fatigue factor for the elves is much greater than the non-existent one for the undead. There's not been an opportunity, certainly not one that's ever been taken, to rest the troops for the high elves. Maybe if the silver helms have managed to be used for screening, or if the reef had been present, something like that, they could rest. But I think Ragnar may have this. Alan is going to make damn sure that if he does have it, he pays though. There are still units on the field. One more piercing bolts of burning would be enough, but that is army losses. Amazing game between Ragnar and Alan there, and Ragnar pushes in with a win in the first round with some of the most glorious Vanguard's Revengers I've ever seen. Those Sisters of Avalon went from one of the most powerful units on the field to almost dead in a matter of seconds. Amazing play by both players, and exactly the kind of games I was hoping to see. And I said I was going to bring it back, and I am. Bloodfire Falls. Alan to ban first this time. So far he's banned Beastmen. Alan bans Tomb Kings. Ragnar to ban now. Lizardmen. Ragnar hoping to get up to a two-game lead, making it hard for Alan to come back. You need to win 3 games in a row if he did that. By banning probably Alan's strongest faction, that we did see him do exceedingly well with the Dark Elves earlier. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see a second Wood Elf. Nice to see the Wood Elves getting another showing. Iridium played them with an infantry-based build yesterday that I liked the build. It was used pretty well as well. It was quite a close one. Ragnar not sure what to do here, I don't think. dwarfs. Ragnar has picked dwarfs. They are getting a second showing in this tournament. I'm looking forward to this one. Organ and a lord. Looks like we may have a glady. On foot so far, but I doubt it will stay that way. Not a lot of love for the dwarfs in the chat. Possibly an advantage of less prior experience of the game, playing the dwarfs in this. People who play dwarfs in the more traditional way tend to lose. So Ragnar, mostly having played dwarfs in the end times, probably have an advantage in that respect. Choppers and rangers, and a second artillery piece. We've got a cannon, we've got choppers, rangers, thunderers, quarrelers, plenty of range units, 5 range units so far plus 2 artillery. 4 dwarf warriors to hold the enemy off. There's going to need to be a lot of flanking for this army to work at its best. The Proven! Great to see the Proven. And the Gilded! We have dwarf cavalry in this, the 3rd End Times tournament. The dwarves have brought Cav. The Wood Elves. Forest Dragon. A Shadows Spellsinger. With Smoke and Mirror, so it will be disappearing. Eternal Guard as a core with Starfire to get through the armour of the dwarfs. Wildwood Rangers bringing that massive AP. This is a very armour piercing army. And I will go grab a phone charger so I can keep watching the stream live chat. And we're back. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, strong pick against any tree-based Wood Elves. Slayers can make an appearance, and the new Blasting Miners with their nice explosions and shrapnel. Treekin, and a swap out for a single Hagbane. I'm liking both armies here. Could do some, and there it is. Wild Riders. If he has the money, I haven't done the maths, but some Glade Lancers or some Shielded Wild Riders maybe here would be very useful. Even some Warhawks. Contest the skies a bit. Glade Riders. Some very nice armies here. I'm expecting good things from this battle. Great to see both the Gilded and the Proven make an appearance in this. And had to make sure the map did come up, because it's too good a map to have missed out the opportunity on. Interesting to see where Ragnar sets up. I imagine it'll be on this hill. It's where I've seen artillery-based factions, well, artillery-based armies set up in the past, but the trees next to it will be making him nervous when fighting the Wood Elves. on the other side. So far, spreading the field and sticking central to respond to anything that happens. On the reverse slope, for the most part, with the valuable stuff, so that the cannons won't do much. But I'll be surprised if he doesn't push through these trees. Meaning, yeah, with that in mind, Ragnar is looking at setting up on the other side of the map. Does mean, though, this area here, yeah, it's been contested by the Rangers because this is otherwise the ideal approach, because it shortens the range of the artillery to practically nothing if you come over this brow. This is what you'd see. What's new with miners, DeCastro? The blasting charges are fused, so they're much weaker against moving targets and much stronger against stationary. They also sound much better. Choppers getting ready with the gilded. Yeah, it's a lot better, the caster. If you throw it at the complete edge of their range, it'll airburst over in front of the units. If you cast it really near, it'll sit on the ground and then blow up later. Ragnar will presumably be pushing this force straight up over the brow, so he is. Wood Elves, not known for their lack of speed though. Definitely bold to leave his cavalry to contest a flank. It's unlikely to win any battle that it would have against Wood Elves, though there isn't that much AP in the support troops. It's a little bit more infantry based again. That said, as a primarily cavalry player, I am slightly biased towards cavalry heavy armies. I think it probably is quite a rounded build, looking at it objectively. Those organ guns are going to be useful, but as soon as the units hit sort of this area, and they're not far from it, they're going to struggle not to blow the heads off their own dwarfs, low as they stand. And if he's given an attack order to these organ guns, and I'm not sure whether it'll hit the cannon. Now the cannon's been pulled back for the same reason. 1 Eternal Guard, 2 Eternal Guard. Testings flying all over the shop. Eternal Guard moving slowly through the water, and the organ guns really making a mockery of their shields. Really hitting towards the edge though. A lot of them are hitting the tree kin, and that looks to me like some poison. Ooh, really good missing. Oh, that's a starfire mixed in. You can tell from the splash. The orange ones being poison and the red ones being AP. The starfire is much less accurate than other units. He really needs to move those in if he's going to get useful trading with them. The purr of the organ gun heard in the background. Now in the foreground, ripping the flank of those Eternal Guard. Those Glade Guard need to move up if Alan's range is going to have the impact it needs it to have. Wildwood Rangers chunking through Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, but being delayed by the choppers. Where are the Gilded? They are here! The Gilded, the Dwarven Cavalry, smacking in to the Wood Elf Archers, mulching them. The Starfire Glade Guard have gone round to a Dwarven Cavalry flank. Shadow Spellsinger dispatched to assist. Choppers flying over. Dwarven Mobility being the name of the game against the Wood Elves. Proven, pushing in to beat back the Treekin. Dragon flying overhead. The dragon is going to make a big difference to this. Surprised he used that on the Lord. I think that would have been better against the Slayers. And a Roman Pendulum cutting through the Slayers there. Big damage. The Glade Riders really could do with either getting on this hill and charging down or shooting into the Slayers here. But the micro task that Alan is currently facing is a big one. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass recovered with excellent dwarf mobility. Look at the flanking done here. This is how the dwarves should be played. Gone are the days of dwarf boxers. Now is the time for dwarf mobility. This is an interesting faction. The Thunderers pushed back by the Horse Archers. Organ Guns racking up a few more kills. 47 they're on currently. Firing into the Starfire Glade Guard that are tied up by choppers and gilded. Prevanath Raymer on the gilded. He's had enough. He said, "Dwarf cavalry no more." The Organ Guns have not yet been threatened. The the Shadow Spellsinger, casting a lovely Penumbral Pendulum. If Ragnar doesn't dodge this, this might be enough for Alan to bring it back, and he doesn't. Not one model managed to dodge that. The Dwarves have had a big hit from that Penumbral Pendulum, but they have completely dominated this right flank. The left flank is still anyone's game. Not sure what that ability is. It's a misclick, I believe. Pit of Shades, that could cost. The dragon is getting hit, but the dragon's on full health. There we are with, admittedly, some slightly unpleasant fire effects, but Hagbane Blade Guard with the shrapnel you can no doubt hear. I know my voice might be drowned slightly by the shrapnel, but it's worth it. Listen to that shrapnel fly. It is a beautiful thing. A miscast, the Withering, going down on the Dwarf Warriors. The dragon must be landing soon on one of these ranged units. These Horse Archers can get into this cannon while the dragon gets into the Organ Gun, so long as something can shut down the Thunderers. Alan's withdrawn. Alan has withdrawn. I'm amazed. That was still anyone's game. I'm just going to double check that he did actually withdraw. Okay. Surprised he withdrew with a dragon. Must be that Ragnar is winning the battle of morale. Ragnar 2-0 up in the final. Moondial will be the map. Ragnar to ban. Now Ragnar has already banned Dark Elves and Lizardmen. God. No, sorry. Not God. Alan, that's why it looked wrong. Alan banning Beastmen and Tomb Kings. The Counts banned by Ragnar. I'm expecting to see Dwarfs banned. Alan does not want to face that again. That was well played by Ragnar. I'm expecting to see Ragnar's Chaos against Alan's Lizardmen. We shall see whether my prediction stands. They often don't. halfway. I don't think Alan will avoid Lismany. I think he'll go for it. It's the deciding game of the tournament, and Alan is, I believe, most comfortable with Lisbon. And yes, that is the first time. He's gone with High Elves again. He's had more success with them. He's gone with High Elves. Chaos against High Elves at the Moondial. And yes, as DeCastro says, it is the first time Ragnar spelled anything right. Ragnar playing Chaos. There's been a lot of Chaos recently, and it's had a lot of good results. Colic Sun Eater! And a Hell Cannon. Law of Metal making an appearance. Again with a overhead bombardment cast. Definitely one of Alan's stronger magics. Gainon's Golden Hounds will do some good as well. At least he would if he was bring. Oh no, he's ditched. Found Transportation. Still has Transportation of Lead for that nice slow. Still has Searing Doom. And it is on a Moondragon. Ooh, a Cav heavy build from Ragnar. Not something you see every day. Cultists, Forsaken, Chaos Warriors and Chaos Marauders, backed with Chaos Horsemasters so they do not get marks. They do have good base stats. Poison Warhounds. Doubling up on the dogs. They did a lot of work yesterday, did the dogs. So I'm not overly surprised to see their return. Double Chaos Lancer, and a Horsemaster's been cut, and a Sorcerer of Death. Not a bad choice by any means. Purple Sun and Spirit Leech, the only spells brought. Cultists. Been brought in a lot of armies recently. They've never had a high kill count. I think 1 is actually the highest I've seen in the tournaments. But they always do well. They're not really there to be great killers. And we will not be doing a third place playoff. Cowboys Internet was originally thought to have been the cat's fault, but it's actually a storm. It's knocked out his internet. The cat happened to knock it over. Not a dissimilar build to last time from Alan. Given Ragnar... Alright, he's just gone to the toilet. I'll let the deployment first start. Leaving Reavers and Chargers. I prefer this army to his last one. I don't think there was much wrong with his army last time, but I think this one edges it out. Well, we haven't had a bad game yet this tournament, and I doubt we're about to start now. Ragnar wins this, he takes the win. If Alan wins this, he can start to bring things back. Kolek Sonita tending to make it the former. Purple Sun gets a bad rep lately, but the last time I used it, I believe it was Cowboy against me, who used it on me and completely ravaged my Norscan Huskarls, just annihilated them. So, in the right situation, Purple Sun of Xeris can be incredibly powerful. The spear, I mean, it's not ideal, but I'd rather have the bracing of the spear than not. In fact, does it brace against all? Yeah, braces against all. So it will brace against the dogs, and it's more aggressive than the swords of the warrior. So I think a spearman is a better choice than a warrior against the poisoned warhounds. Sisters of Avalon will be Kolek's worst nightmare, especially with the Shaman Archmage on the field. Plague of Rust. If Plague of Rust is combined with the Sisters of Avalon on Kolek Sonita, Kolek will go from a massive threat Lord and Seagull on the flanks I like. The army on the whole I like. The only issue here is if he doesn't move, these guys don't have a great field of fire. Oops. Forgot I pasted that. Fortunately both players seem to have ignored my random nonsense that I've copied in the middle. The Hell Cannon might well get kills against the tightly packed elves, and at the very least we'll push forward. Armoured Archers, they get a bad rep for a unit that's very useful. They've got a slight bit of hybrid to them. Could be very against something like the Skaven. I like Armoured Archers, though I think high elf players are reluctant to fight the Skaven. Apologies there, my headphones once again coming loose. And the Sisters of Avalon really getting some fire into Kolek Sonita, who's about to do an almighty hit against Phoenix Guard and Swordmasters. Yeah, but he didn't know he was going to bring Kolek. I would prefer double Sisters of Avalon, but if you bring two double Sisters of Avalon, that's 2200 gold dedicated. Even if they beat Kolek and use their ammo doing it, they've done a gold equivalent. Is that Gehenna's Golden Hounds? It's Gehenna's Golden Hounds. Curved, unfortunately for him, but it does seem to be doing a bit to the Horsemasters, which in fairness are probably going to be the more dangerous units on the field. now will be the time for a Plague of Rust, methinks. On Collect Sun Eater. And the Chaos Lancers, not yet been marked. Getting on the Sisters of Avalon. Collect Sun Eater has managed to hit into the Sisters of Avalon. Spearman flanking the Chaos Axemen and the Forsaken. This is going into a very blobbed fight on the left, but with lots of movement. It's not often you see that combination. Chaos Lancer's still not been marked. Sticking with the versatility for now. Swordmasters of Haworth early routed in a melee fight. This is not the most usual of games for the High Elves. Chaos really pushing through, almost Napoleonic in tactics this game. Heavy cav charging on the flank of a weakened enemy from artillery in the centre, through and flanking. It's almost textbook Napoleon, this. Plus a dragon. Chaos Lancers pushing through into the back of the Phoenix Guard, who've lost Martial Mastery. Ragnar may well have taken the second round of the Chaos Chosen tournament. And the lightning! We are lost! And Collect Sun Eater wave breaking the High Elf Cav. Sisters of Avalon firing. The dragon fighting the Chaos Spawn. The Illyrian Reavers cleaned up the artillery, but their absence was noted from the main fight. The dragon struggling to get past all these units to escape Collect Sun Eater, having no choice but to take the fight it doesn't want. Illyrian Reavers in the back of the Chaos Spawn, really chunking them down. Silver Helms crashing into the front lines, but the Lancers meeting them in the charge. Everything falling here. Much like a push of pike, two Lancers crashing into each other do not last long. Sisters of Avalon firing in, and although shield wall, no, it's worn off, they've lost more than half their models, no longer getting the shield wall for the missile lock chance, and facing the wrong way regardless. The High Elves are giving a good last stand, but it is a last stand. Alan fighting on. And withdrawn. The writing was on the wall, I think, there. Chaos have won. Ragnar has won the tournament. Thanks to all players. Some excellent games there, made for really great watching. I thoroughly enjoyed hosting the tournament. Hopefully you guys watching have enjoyed it as much as I have. And I will leave you all with that.